Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now, let's start with the first story. It's called Not Rocket Science. I used to work at a cash center. All the security trucks would collect cash from businesses during the day. We would open the packages, credit their accounts, and the cash would be bundled and shipped back out to banks and cash machines. I worked the night shift, and it became an unwritten rule that when you finished your work, you could go. Well, one evening we had a new manager who singled me out to stay and help the team, who loaded the money for cash machines. This was a job I had never done before. I tried to ask a few questions, like how much do we put in each bundle, how much should we have in each box, only to be met with an aggressive, just put the cash in the box, it's not rocket science, okay, you are the boss. So I put the cash in the box. When the box was full, I pushed the cash down and fit even more in. I kept going until I physically couldn't put another note in and used all my rate to close the cash box. It turns out they were only supposed to contain 100,000 pounds, and it hit the fan when they did the last checks and they thought they were 65k short. They ordered a full recount of all the boxes. When the one I had packed was opened, it practically exploded. There was cash everywhere. One of the girls who worked the section was stunned that you could actually fit that much in one of the boxes. I would like to say I had the told you so moment of being confronted, but the manager said nothing. And once the boxes were repacked, I went home. I never got asked to cover that section again though. The next story is called No More Waste. I started working as a waitress in a dine-in pizza and pasta restaurant. The food was really overpriced for the quality, but they got away with it, because it was the only place open late near the cinema, and also the portions were extremely oversized by Australian standards. But we didn't have many regular patrons, so people would be shocked by how big their plates of pasta were. And since nobody could finish it, it produced a ton of food waste. The first time I went to management to ask them if I could give a cardboard takeaway container to a dine-in customer, they told me sternly, well, it's okay this time, since they asked for one, but don't hand them out unless the customer specifically requests it. They are really expensive. They were not really expensive. Management were just stingy, and also generally among the meanest bosses I've had. Don't ask me why they were okay with the cost of food waste. I guess they felt it gave them a good image to give large serves. I really hated to see all this waste each day, and it was clear that the customers did too. So whenever I cleared a table with a large amount of food left, and the customers were looking regretful about it, I would say quietly, you know, we do have takeaway boxes available. In case you would like to request one, just let me know if you'd like to request one. Almost invariably, they would be grateful, like, oh, that would be amazing. I felt so bad wasting all that food. I didn't know we had the option to ask for a box. Thank you. I think realistically, the fallout was a positive one for the restaurant, since some of these customers did indeed become regulars and didn't mind paying the exorbitant prices if it took care of their lunch the next day. However, the management did ask me what was up and why we were going through so many containers. I said, I don't know. People just keep requesting them all the time lately. I guess people are becoming much more conscious of food waste. The zero waste movement was actually taking off at the time, so I got away with nothing more than a raised eyebrow from the boss. The third story is called Use the Vacation. This happened to one of my workmates a few years ago. A new manager was hired for our team, and quickly he wanted to impose his way of doing things. Daily stand-up meetings, people having lunch at different times, etc. So he didn't start off well with most people in our team. Then he started going after people who had accumulated annual leave. In Australia, you get 20 days annual leave per year. I had none left, so no problem with me. But this friend of mine had been working there for nearly 8 years and never took a day off. So he had months worth of annual leave. His manager wanted to make an example of him and ordered him to plan out vacations and or sell back to the company some of that time, which is perfectly legal, but with tons of conditions. My friend didn't want to take any time off, but was being pressured constantly by our manager. Every day at our stand-up meetings, the first item would always be pending annual leave and would just fixate on my friend. One day, my friend just had enough of this guy and gave him two options. He told him he wanted to go for extended holiday back to his country and take it all at once, or sell the whole thing back to the company. The manager accepted the first option, only to come back the next day. After checking with his manager, to say that wasn't possible, as he would have to go for nearly 6 months, and we had plenty of projects in the pipeline. Then he said he'll have to sell the whole thing back to the company, only to come back the next day. After checking with HR, one of the conditions says that you can only sell a maximum of 20 days. From that day onwards, every morning, my friend started emailing our manager, copying HR and the head of our department, asking him for an update on his annual leave arrangements, stating he had given him the options he was looking for and was waiting for his response. He would also bring it up and push for an answer. Every day at our stand-up meetings, he never got a reply from our manager, but weeks later got a reply from the head of our department, indicating they will review other options and let him know. They never did. The following year, my friend had his first daughter. He ended up taking extended leave then, 3 months. The pushy manager had already resigned, as he never felt comfortable in the team and found another job somewhere else. The next story is called No Refunds. I was racing between things one day and didn't have much time for lunch. At the time, McDonald's wasn't absurdly expensive and one was on the way to my next stop, so I decided to hit the drive-thru so I could eat on the way. I placed my order for a medium McThing and got asked if I wanted a large, which most McDonald's don't do anymore, and I said no. When I got to the window to pay, the price seemed high, which I thought was odd. But maybe I just did the mental math on the taxes wrong, or misremembered the price of the item. The cashier didn't hand me a receipt, weird as well, but whatever. When I got to the window to receive my food, it all clicked, as they handed me a large, which I politely declined, as I really had zero interest in paying $2 for a few more fries and soda. At this point the manager appeared and stated, "We don't do refunds here." That was when I realized what was going on. Having worked fast food before, they were probably doing some sort of upcharge competition. Bring up the most large and you, that manager, get a reward. I was slightly flabbergasted, but the manager repeated that there was no possibility of a refund. I politely smiled and said, "That's okay. I call my bank on speaker to do a chargeback. I need you to talk to them. Since it's on speaker, you can just tell them you can't do refunds." And then proceeded to sit at the window, calling my bank during lunch hour at a very busy drive-thru. Turns out they can do refunds, and they can do them so fast I didn't even make it through the phone tree. And yes, I did file a complaint with corporate, but it's not like that actually does anything. The last story is called Can't Carry Overtime. I worked at a company that had a lot of people that had worked a long time there. It was pretty common for new chemistry or chemical engineering grads to come in as their first job after college. At 20 years, they got 6 weeks, 30 days of vacation. Some people liked to work and simply rolled vacation days into the next year. The max you could ever carry over was 45 days. At some point, some bean counter figured out that the 45 days were a liability to the company. If you are selling a chunk of a company off and those people have 6 weeks of vacation and another 9 weeks in the bank, that's 15 weeks of time that the new owner could be on the hook for. So they decided and put out a proclamation that there would be no carryover from one year to the next. Much unhappiness swept the company. Lots of people tried to plan how they were going to use it. One of the key people I worked with came up in October and said they are going on vacation and how much they liked working with me, which was kind of odd. So I pressed a little on why this sounded like a forever goodbye and not a see you in a week. So I got told under strict confidence that they had found a new job. New job started in 2 weeks. They had enough vacation days to cover them until New Year, and the next year's vacation and holidays covered the first 2 months of the following year. So they were done. I wished them well, and they were gone. But they were not as good as I am in keeping secrets. There were suddenly a number of key people, also with 6 weeks vacation and a large vacation bank, that were gone. Lots of unhappy people in HR. HR could not say no to the close-out vacations, since they had decreed the rollover freeze. But HR decreed, you must return to work to be able to collect a vacation in the next year. Turns out most of the people got jobs in very cool companies. They all scheduled a vacation day, so they could come back to work for a day. They came back en masse. Co-workers scheduled them all into meetings, so they had things to do on the day. It was mostly a party day with an all-day food fest. As an added bonus, senior management had indeed planned to split off a division, and the sale fell through because of all the people that had bailed out. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.